So I thought I'd do a little video on my DIY version of the button sling hammocks Weight Weenie Micro. I bought the material from button sling hammocks, this stuff. It's very lightweight, very strong ripstop. So I'm not going to go through the detail of how I made it. There's a good tutorial on YouTube about how to cut, measure, sew, etc. So the cord channels. Ian Young has a great video on making these continuous loops here, and I also followed his video for making whoopee slings, so they worked out very well. The other inspiration I got from Ian was making the bug net. So this bug net material, it's 0.9 ounce per square yard no-seam, came from ripstop by the roll. The ridge line is nominally 9 feet. Mine ended up stretching a little bit. My ridge line is made from, this is Zing It. Again, I followed Ian's tutorial for how to make the ridge line. So when I strung this thing up and laid in it a few times, the ridge stretched a couple of inches. So I would say before you attempt to add a bug net, you might want to let your hammock settle in a little bit. So more about the bug net. The basic idea, the plan, again, Ian mentions that he got the dimensions more or less from the DIY Gear Supply website. They have a nice little diagram. As you can see here, if I pull this out, you can see this is sort of a diamond shape. So there's a corner right there, and there's another one up here, and this edge is straight. So I used a spreadsheet to figure out the dimensions I needed here. So my ridge line was slightly over 9 feet. The hammock, the edge of the hammock is very close to 11 feet when it's finished. And then I plugged in some numbers and calculated out how long this diagonal piece here should be to get an exact fit. And it fit perfectly. So that worked out very, very well. The zipper, I just bought at a local fabric supply place. This is just coil zipper. This is a number 5. And sort of listened to what Ian had to say about putting in the zipper. I did mine a little bit different. So what I did was sewed, sort of, made sure that it fit. Started sewing at one end and sewed all the way to the other. About an inch extra at one end, which I cut off. And then I removed the teeth of the zipper. You can see here. So one end I picked them out. It was really a pain in the butt. So this end you can see here, I just cut about an inch of the teeth out. And once that was done, I separated the zippers and I pinned this zipper to the bug net. So I rolled it over once, ironed it to make it a little bit easier to sew the hem in. Using a zipper foot makes this a whole heck of a lot easier, sewing these zipper pieces on. You really, really want to use the zipper foot. You get a nice, neat edge. And yeah, so I sewed that on. I pinned it as Ian suggested. So start in the middle. So mark the middle of your hammock and your net and your zipper, and start pinning. So pin that way, and then sew it. And the net tends to stretch. So by the time you're at the other end, I had maybe an inch of extra material, which not a big deal. So, and the last thing I did was sew this side of the hammock to the net. The same way, start in the center, pin it, and then start sewing at one end. And ideally you should sew the same way, so if there's any material scrunched up, it ends up at the same end. So a little more detail on how I finished the end here. Once the net was sewed on, or I should just say that the way I sewed this was specifically so that I didn't have to sew inside the hammock. So my zipper runs end to end, just down one side. It's a little bit heavier than the way Ian did it. He left, his zipper only goes to about here, but that involves sewing inside the hammock, and I didn't want to do that. So also somebody commented that it's nice to be able to unzip the hammock net completely and flip it back, and I can do that with this setup. So at the end, once you have this side sewed to the hammock of the net, you go back and you rejoin the zippers, put the poles on, And then what I did on the end here, I sewed a little patch. It's kind of hard to see, but I sewed a little patch of this is 1000D. I can't remember what kind of material it is, but it's heavy material. Basically, just sewed that up in to lock the zipper in place. So it's sewed from about there to about there. So once that's sewed in, the zipper can't come apart. So the one thing I do wish I'd done a little differently is I left about 4 inches of net here, and I left this little tab sticking out because Ian mentioned that he kind of tucked that back in to seal up the end of the net to the hammock. So you can see now I've got this little ball of net here, so I shouldn't have left 4 inches. I should have left like maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches. This would have come out a lot tighter, and I could have still tucked this end in. So this is still unfinished. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to finish this, but it needs to be a lot tighter than it is at the moment. So while I'm at it, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about what I'm planning to use in the summer with this hammock for bottom insulation. This is basically, it's like a Tyvek sleeping bag that I bought from To Go Systems. This is called the Trifecta. It's a nice big bag, and I had bought this shiny mylar stuff from banggood.com or something. It's basically intended to be a picnicking net you set on the ground, but it's actually it's reflective, and it's very thin, but it does provide some insulation, and it really does help keep you warm. So when I folded that thing in half, it fit just exactly perfectly in this Trifecta. So this is what I'm going to use, is basically the Trifecta bag with this insulation. So I don't really need a double layer hammock because the Trifecta is going to keep this from slipping and sliding around on me. I have my little pillow here. It's a great little pillow. I bought this on AliExpress. Little inflatable pillow. This thing weighs, maybe 2 ounces. Costs $3. So I recommend these things. It's actually surprisingly comfortable. Just got kind of a flocked finish. But yeah, great little item for $3. So I've tried this setup. I laid in it for maybe half an hour in 5 degrees C, that's around, it's actually below 40 Fahrenheit. And I was getting cool. I don't think I could have stayed in it all night or anything. The wind was blowing, and this isn't enough insulation for those temps. But the top side of me was surprisingly warm in the Trifecta, just with the Trifecta, nothing else. I was basically wearing what I'm wearing now, which is fleece. So again, I don't think I could have spent the night in that, but it was a lot warmer than I expected it to be. I also made myself a little Ridgeline organizer here to hold my phone and my glasses and stuff when I go to bed. So that's it. So that's my DIY Weight Weenie Micro. Oh, I should give you the weights. The hammock with the suspension, so the continuous loops and the whoopee slings, was around, I believe it came out about 12 ounces, 10-12 ounces. The finished hammock itself with no suspension was 6.9 ounces. I should also mention this hammock is extra wide. I made this one 62 inches wide, so it's huge. When you get inside there, you can see this thing is gigantic when you lay in, but you get a really nice lay when you stretch out in that thing diagonally. When I added the bug net, it added a couple of ounces, again, because this is 0.9 ounce. It's not the super light netting, and the zipper, of course, adds maybe 2 ounces. So this whole setup, without the tree straps, everything you see here, minus the bag and the insulation and the pillow, 15.1 ounces in a stuff sack. So this insulation adds 22 ounces, and I intend to use this with a 10-ounce War Bonnet Edge tarp that I just ordered. So that gets my whole setup here with the tree straps. The whole shooting match will come in just a little over 3 pounds, which I think is pretty amazing, because this is really a comfortable hammock.